Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we're going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if Mike Barnes visited Robby and Juvie during the events of Cobra Kai Season 3? This is a continuation to What If Mike Barnes saved Robby during the events of Cobra Kai Season 2. If you haven't seen that video, I would recommend you go watch it before continuing this one. So in this timeline, the events of Cobra Kai Season 3 would still happen, the school fight would still happen, so Robby would still kick Miguel off the balcony, so Miguel would still be paralyzed, and Robby would still go to Juvie. The events of Season 3 would continue, and in Juvie, Robby would still be picked on by Sean. Mike would look at the news, and he would recognize Robby. Mike would feel bad for Robby, and he would want to go visit him in Juvie, so Mike would go visit Robby in Juvie in this timeline. Robby would be surprised to see Mike. Mike would want to help Robby. Mike would tell him that if he ever needed anything, he should go to him. And Mike would also give Robby the advice to stand up for himself and to strike first. Mike and Robby would start building a bond, and Mike would regularly visit Robby. Kreese would also try visiting Robby and Juvie in this timeline, but Robby wouldn't want to listen to Kreese. Robby would still fight Sean in this timeline, and those events would stay the same. Season 3 would carry on. Johnny would still help Miguel recover, and he would still form Eagle Fang. Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do would still have the rivalry, and by the time Robby gets out of Juvie, Mike would be there waiting for him. Johnny would be confused seeing Mike, and he would ask him who he was. This is when Daniel would show up, and he would be surprised to see Mike. Mike Barnes would introduce himself to Johnny, and he would say that Robby asked him to be here today. Robby would walk out, and he would see Johnny and Daniel, and much like in the original timeline, he wouldn't want to go with any of them, and he would go with Mike Barnes. Mike would offer him a place to stay, and he would offer him a job at his furniture store. The events of Season 3 would carry on. Robby would remember Daniel and Miyagi-Do, and he would want to give Miyagi-Do a second chance. The All Valley tournament would still be cancelled, but Miguel and Sam would still save it. Those events would stay the same. Miguel and Sam would still be celebrating, and Robby would still show up. Robby would be surprised to see them, and he would feel betrayed, so Robby would still leave. Robby would go back to Mike's house, and he would be angry. Mike would notice Robby's emotions, and he would want to talk, so Robby would tell Mike everything. Mike would want to give Robby some advice about letting go of his anger. He would tell him that Miguel, Sam, and Daniel weren't the problem, and that he needed to forgive him, and he would also tell him about everything that happened with Daniel in 1985. Robby would hear this, and he would decide to give Miyagi-Do a second chance. The events of Season 3 would continue. The house fight would still happen in this timeline. Cobra Kai would still show up, and they would still attack Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang. Kyler would still be attacking Miguel. This is when Robby would show up at the LaRusso house, and he would want to talk to Sam, but he would be surprised to see the house fight going on. Without hesitation, Robby would jump in and start fighting the Cobra Kais. He would notice Kyler beating up Miguel, and he would remember when Mike told him about forgiveness. So Robby would save Miguel in this timeline, and he would take down Kyler. Miguel would be surprised to see Robby, and they would share a glance of mutual respect. So Robby would continue fighting off the Cobra Kais, and he would start fighting Hawk. Hawk would be surprised to see Robby, and their fight would continue. So in this timeline, Hawk wouldn't be redeemed, and in this timeline, they would take down Cobra Kai a lot sooner. The season would still end the same way. Johnny would still confront Kreese, but since Robby wasn't in Cobra Kai, Johnny and Kreese wouldn't fight, and Kreese would still propose a tournament. Those events would stay the same. Daniel and Johnny would still team up, so Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do would still train together. Robby would join them in this timeline, and he would ask Mike Barnes to join them. So Mike would become a third sensei at Miyagi-Fang, and that is where I'm going to end part 2. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Mike Barnes visited Robby and Juvie during the events of Cobra Kai Season 3? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.